He was sitting in a coffee shop slowly drinking his espresso. My God, he thought, this tastes so great after no coffee for days. He lost his percolator while trekking through the woods and had to do with tea. Now tea ain't that bad, but as a coffee drinker he really missed his morning coffee. So he was enjoying it right now. That is until he saw a man in the back of the shop staring at him. What was up with that guy? There seemed to be something off with him. And now he made eye contact. The man was coming to his table. Mind if I sit here with you? The man asked. He tried to answer, coughed, took another sip of his coffee, and then the man was already sitting at his table. He hoped it was not just some crazy lunatic. At home, his door was full of warning signs. No unsolicited advertising brochures. Not opening the door for salesmen, and I am already converted, to just name a few. He avoided contact most of the time. With one exception. He had fallen in love. Not just a bit. He could not think of anything else. He could not imagine a future without his love. And he was going to propose that night. What was up with this strange dude? So are you finally going to do it? The man asked. What was he talking about? Surely the stranger wouldn't know what he was up to? He had to ask. A muffled what came out of his mouth. Still confused about this man's behavior. There was something off, but he could not put his finger on what exactly. What? He repeated, clearly audible now. You know, got the rings ready? Came his reply. What the funny? How could he know? How do you know? Who are you? He asked, startled. Let me introduce myself. You can call me Mr. Boltzmann. I made you. And everyone else told the man. This was getting weirder and weirder. Surely it was some lunatic. He already started to get up when he finally noticed the man was not breathing. Was it even a man? What are you? He whispered wide-eyed. Mr. Boltzmann smiled and said, Let me explain. And the man started to tell. He was from a universe without life. There may have been stars, but his universe was far past that. Every star since long died out and even the black holes evaporated. Not even iron stars were left. Only some extremely low-energy radiation remained in this dying universe, with often only a photon or two at a time in his cosmological horizon. Then, Mr. Boltzmann told him, he sprang suddenly alive, only to be undone by the same random quantum fluctuations that granted him life. His mind was spinning. Random quantum fluctuations? What? He slowly let his mouth fall open. Mr. Boltzmann paused, talking a moment, showing a gentle smile. Then he continued, Everything is made up of quantum fields. There is a certain randomness to them. About anything can happen if you wait long enough. Then I am not talking about 1 trillion years or any number you can imagine. Much and much longer. So I was randomly created. More or less. In my case, it was 2 photons with a certain flare to it that triggered my consciousness. I realized that in a fraction of a second. My brain works a bit differently than a human brain. It is far and far more powerful. To at least experience life a bit longer in that nearly dead universe. I created a simulation, or a new universe if you will. One with life that would set up the exact right conditions to spawn me again in the new universe, so I can live there again. So what do I have to do with all of this? He could not believe it. Or maybe, the man that called himself Mr. Boltzmann was too coherent for a regular lunatic. It is easy. I'm looking for the right kind of love. I think I have found it. Now if you will, please hold up your and your love's hand to the sun once you put on the rings. 2 photons will reflect from them and create another me. Please, Mr. Boltzmann pleaded. Suddenly something started to dawn on him. He would play a part in every universe if Mr. Boltzmann wanted to live. Again and again falling in love. He didn't know what he was talking to. A god? A devil? A lunatic? He did not care. First he started to smile. Then he was grinning. For him there was only one answer. Sure. I will make you and you will make me. In a half-confused state he approached the altar. The wedding. The strange man. No. What? Was he crazy? He shouldn't be thinking about the strange man now. What was wrong with him? It was his wedding day, for God's sake, and his attention should be on his bride. He shook it off and tried to get rid of the nagging distraction. Everyone had told him to be present on his wedding day. It was the only advice he'd gotten. Put your phone away, they'd said. You won't regret it. And yet here he was, anything but present. Thinking about that strange man. Boltzmann, was it? His mind did not clear up until they were holding up their hands to the sun, the rings glittering. A feeling of doom encroached on him. Had he been here before? And it was bad? A sudden flash and a loud bang disoriented him shortly. Very shortly. While the rest of the wedding guests were still in shock, he grabbed his love and tried to pull her away. Too late. Rage. Sadness. Not again. Then he instinctively ducked. Small, flechette-like projectiles were ripping everyone around him apart. It splattered on him. Blood and body entails from his thoughts stopped and he started to sprint. There was only one thing left. Murderous intent. He started to duck and weave while projectiles everywhere around him impacted. He slammed his fist seemingly in midair. Then his fist impacted. Slammed down through a visor and a brittle skull, while suddenly an insectoid separated from the head became visible too. Green ichor mixed with the blood on his hands, face, and everywhere. Without thought, he tried to wipe some away from his face. It didn't work. Took up the weapon that was lying on the ground. Then he started to shoot. Bang! Bang! With every shot, something green splattered around and a body dropped. Previously invisible, he kept dodging every shot, hiding every danger, and kept shooting. He only stopped to pick up a new weapon when his ammunition ran out. After a seemingly unending time, he slowly realized they were visible now. Some were running away. Others were trying to surrender. He felt rage. It was the right kind of rage. He was going to stop this endless cycle of murder. Pjotter. Peter. Pitter. No Peter this time, the man thought. Peter Smith. Thousands of small variations in quintillions of cycles. This time he was Peter. Peter from the coffee shop, where Boltzmann told him everything was possible. Well, so far he was fucked. In each and every cycle. Peter slowly looked around. He was at a picnic site. Some tables with fixed benches. And bodies. A lot of bodies. Mostly aliens. Those were his work. He felt nothing from seeing the bodies. He had seen it too many times. He only remembers just before the moment. He wished he didn't. Cursed that Boltzmann. Even worse, it only started after he upheld his part of the bargain. Every time she died. Peter's mind back at the altar for a moment. This time she was Carol. Her name changed sometimes. Just like his. But she always remained the same. And she remembered too. He was not sure, he never could talk about it. But she has that haunted look just before he tries to pull her away. Tears mingled with the gore on his face. Police cars in the distance closed in with the sound of sirens. The few surviving bugs quivering with their weapons on the ground. One rolled on his back, rocking on his hard shell. A grenade rolled away from under him. Just like always, Peter kicked the grenade away as always. It exploded. Already dead bugs were torn into smaller parts and rained down on him. After standing a few seconds, dumbfounded Peter started to roar from laughter. Something new. At that moment, two police officers arrive on the scene. The big one starts to vomit while the woman next to him struggles to keep her last meal inside as well. She draws her gun and slowly points it at Peter. Then at the bugs. Then back to Peter. She tries to say something with her other hand over her mouth. Coughing. Peter starts to put the alien weapon on the ground. While bending over, other officers join, weapons drawn. He just in time rolls to the side when a gun is discharged. The officer who used his weapon slapped aside by the woman first on scene with a furious look. Still coughing. She is all right, Peter thinks, struggling to stop laughing. The other cycles, she was the one puking. Peter's eyes wandered to the church in the background. Immediately his mood shifted again. He wanted to shoot those bugs. Angry at himself for laughing, he put trembling the weapon down and held his hands up before collapsing on the ground. Everything going dark. Waking up in the police cell, Peter's eyes go to the door. Closed. Good, he wanted to think a bit. He felt like going insane. Was he going insane? Who are those alien bugs? Why did Boltzmann set him up to relive this horror time after time? How will he